Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of The Debate Mates. I'm your co-host, Matthew Swanberg, and I'm here with my other co-host, Jackson Cashwell. Unfortunately, today, Nathan could not be with us, so it'll just be the two of us, two of the greatest minds on basketball television, battling it out. And in this episode, we'll be featuring new games and a lot of, hopefully, lively discussions on many NBA topics. And so, speaking of new games being introduced, we'll start off with our newest game called In Your Opinion. Yeah.
Do you want me to explain what that is?
Sure, you can explain it.
Basically, In Your Opinion is a game where one of us asks a question and we each write down our answer on a sheet of paper. And then we each have some time to think out our answer, and then we both share our answer and discuss it. Basically, it's pretty generic, but it could make some good discussions. So.
All right. So, do you want to say the first question?
Sure. We can start off with one that we discussed just before filming this. Who is your starting Eastern Conference and starting Western Conference All-Star team for this year?
And not who you think it's going to be, but who you think
who you think it should be, okay. Not who it's going to be. Because obviously you've got guys like, Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade who are probably going to make the All-Star game, and Dirk, who really haven't earned it this year, but are going to get it because of like a sentimental kind of thing.
Yeah.
You finished already?
No. I'm just stuck on one of them.
I feel like this is the same lineup we have every year for the All-Star game. Well, obviously with one exception for the West.
Yeah.
Because LeBron's never been in the East.
Who was I about to say for center? I can't remember now.
Man, I can't think. Who deserves center in the West?
Oh, yeah. Now I know. Okay, and I'm almost done. Mine's going to be a little bit controversial. Alright.
Oh, okay.
Alright, how many more do you have?
I'm still writing.
Alright, I'm done. Alright, one more. Alright, tell me when you're done.
Alright. Who even plays power forward in the East?
The East?
The West, yeah. Blake plays power forward in the East. He's had a great season. Who are the great power forwards in the East?
Claw?
Who?
Kawhi?
Oh, Kawhi, of course. Okay, what am I thinking? And then center's obviously got to go to Embiid.
Alright, so.
We probably have very similar lists.
Alright, now let's start reading. Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Alright. You can go first.
Alright, so mine is definitely a bit controversial. I don't know if you can read this.
It's probably backwards. Yeah, it's backwards.
But for the West, mine's definitely, like I said, a little controversial. I have starting at point guard Steph Curry, starting at shooting guard James Harden.
Wow, okay, this is going to be controversial. Looking at your list.
The starting power forward, Kevin Durant. Starting center, Anthony Davis. And the starting center, I'm going with Paul George. Now,
starting small forward, you mean?
Yeah, starting small forward. But let me reason first before anyone goes crazy. LeBron's missed significant time recently. I think he's about to miss his third straight week. He went out with a groin injury on Christmas Day. Since then, the Lakers have definitely performed to what people have expected them to perform to without LeBron. And you could argue Steph has missed just as much game time as LeBron. But Paul George has played a great season, and he does deserve to be a starter. I think maybe more than a guy like Steph Curry. If there was a positionless All-Star game, I would say George would definitely be a starter, even if LeBron had been healthy all this time. LeBron will still probably make it, as he is the leading vote getter in the Western Conference.
He always is.
And he is going to make it, rightfully so. And, I don't know, because LeBron has been injured, so I just had to give the nod to Paul George because he's been playing exceptionally.
I agree. I think Paul George deserves to be a starter. There just are so many great players in the West that I don't know if he's going to get it, even though I think he definitely deserves it.
Alright, so now let's do your West.
My West starters are almost the same. I've got Steph Curry at point guard, shooting guard James Harden. Small forward, I put LeBron over Paul George. I honestly, when writing this list, I wasn't even thinking Paul George because when is LeBron ever not an All-Star starter? It's so natural to put him on that list. At power forward, I've got Durant, and at center, I've got Davis. I think Harden obviously has earned that. He is, for me at least, the front runner for MVP right now. He's had that stretch over the past several games scoring, he had that 40-point streak and 30-point streak.
Which is still going now.
Still going now. Curry, I think, deserves it. I can't think of any other point guards in the West who have really earned it over him.
You could argue Lillard, I think.
But Lillard, I mean, you can argue. Lillard's always a snub. I think Lillard definitely deserves to be on the All-Star team, but I just don't know if he's earned it over Steph Curry.
All right, so now onto the Eastern Conference, and looking at our sheets, we both have the exact same thing.
Just at slightly different positions.
Yeah, Irving, Walker, Leonard, Giannis, and Embiid.
Yeah, I had Walker, Irving, Giannis, Kawhi, and Embiid, so I had them ordered slightly differently, but I think there just aren't that many great players in the East, so I think it's pretty easy to rank those.
Yeah, and if Dwayne Wade is an All-Star starter, I'm going to be very upset because he doesn't deserve it. We know this is his farewell season, but we can at least bring him in off the bench, and I think he will end up being a starter because the media might not vote him as a starter, but
the fans will.
But the coaches too, who have 25% of the vote, they all have respect for Dwayne Wade and will probably vote him into the All-Star game. I got something crazy going on with my hair this morning. But Walker deserves it so much. Like, I would even argue that I'd rather have Walker starting than Kyrie because the game's in Charlotte, and that doesn't really mean much because it's just a location. But he's played with Charlotte his whole career. He's been on the trade block basically for the past couple of years, but has never been moved. Seems like he's very loyal to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And aside from that, he's just a great player with great stats. He seems like a fun person, great personality for an All-Star game, and a great player in Charlotte. Everything's pointing to him being an All-Star starter except for the votes.
Yeah. I know people won't probably choose him as an All-Star starter. He probably won't be one. Yeah. But I just don't see what else the man has to do to earn it this year. I mean, he had that 60-point game, and it was his second game of the year. He dropped 60 or something like that, or he dropped 40 something. I know he's had that 60-point game this year, and it's just been his best year his best season in years, arguably his best season of his career.
Yeah,
and for that to happen with a guy as late in his career, he's not late in his career, but he's getting up there in age. He's not a super young guy for the NBA anymore, and for him to improve drastically when generally most players will be on the decline at this point in their career is really surprising.
Yeah, and I was noticing this as I was writing it down, but I don't know I think the Eastern Conference guards this year are kind of soft because, to be honest, Kyrie Irving's only averaging 22 points, 6 and 3.
And he has a lot of great players on his team.
Yeah, and those aren't really all-star numbers. I think because he's Kyrie Irving, he gets the nod. But, imagine if Victor Oladipo were playing up to what we thought he might play up to. He'd probably get the role over Kyrie because he's not having a great season by his standards, I don't think, or by all-star game standards.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so on to the next topic.
Yeah.
We have... All right, so we know the big name players that are most likely to get traded. You got your Beal, you got your you got your Love, and you got your what's his name, Brandon Ingram. But let's look at other players that are big names that we think will get traded, and don't say Blake Griffin.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Or Anthony Davis, because we've already covered those guys.
You don't have to include the package. Just say a player you think should be traded.
Okay.
All right, so I thought mine was very controversial, but yours definitely blows mine out of the water. So if you would like to start.
You probably can't read this. Klay Thompson. I think this is gonna hurt a lot of Golden State fans to hear, but sorry, he's got to get out of there. I mean, they've got 5 All-Stars. He's now arguably their 4th option.
When Boogie gets back.
When Boogie gets back, you could argue that he's going to be a scoring option over Thompson. Thompson is having a down year, but he's just such a talented player, and he's still pretty young. To be on a team with so many All-Stars, I think, not that he needs a ton of development as a player, but I think being on a team with so many All-Stars actually kind of hurts his development as a player.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing that I mentioned, I think, in a previous episode with LeBron, how the other young players aren't just benefiting from LeBron being on there, having that mentorship. They're also, they're losing touches, and therefore they're not getting the experience they need. I think that Klay Thompson is just undervalued in Golden State. And it's not that they don't value him, and it's not that the fans don't value him. It's just there's so many other great players on that team, and he could be such a dominant player on another team.
Yeah, I agree.
That I know he wants to stay in Golden State, but I think in terms of his stats and how he plays, I think he would put up better stats on another team.
All right, so mine is Chris Paul. So he's definitely not a name that's been thrown around in trades at all this season.
Right.
But we mentioned Harden going on this tear that's been lasting basically since the day Chris Paul got injured.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockets took off without Chris Paul, and when he gets back, he probably will help them. He's a great defensive player, but he's lost that quickness that he had even last year. Maybe the hamstring injury in the playoffs was more
serious
than we thought, because it's hurting him again this season. That's why he's out right now. But I think his age is declining. Or that didn't make sense. He's getting older, and you do need that other guard to take the weight off of James Harden. So that's why I wrote down on my paper, if you can see it, maybe for Walker or Beal, who are both names that have been on the trade market a lot this season. I think Walker would be a better fit with them because he is a point guard at heart. Beal more of a shooting guard, not going to take as many touches away from Harden. But I'd rather have Kemba Walker get traded after the trade deadline.
Right.
Because I want him to be a starter in Charlotte for the game.
Right.
But I think you'd have to put in a little bit more in order to get a guy like Walker back, because it's no secret, GMs know that Chris Paul's aging and is very injury prone at this stage of his career. So maybe a Chris Paul and Nene, a pick, get Bradley Beal and Frank Kaminsky in return, and he's been on the trade block for them, or a Nicholas Batum, both solid.
You mean Walker
shooters.
and Nicholas Batum?
Yeah. I think getting another point guard that's more ball dominant like Walker, that can hit those clutch shots, that can, not necessarily a great decision maker, not a great passer, but still I think he would benefit the Rockets a lot. I think he and Harden would easily become the best backcourt in the league. And I don't know if this will make a team that could take down the Warriors. You might need a little bit more star power. But I think you could come pretty darn close, and they could definitely narrow the gap or close the gap between the first and second best team in the West. Because right now, the Warriors are running away with it, not standings wise, but talent wise.
But if Beal got traded for CP3, Beal obviously is a shooting guard, and so is Harden. Granted, Harden can play the one, though.
Yeah.
He played point guard a couple seasons ago, I think, in 2016-17.
That's one reason I don't think this trade would work, because I think Harden needs to be playing that shooting guard, because we saw what happened a couple of years ago when Manu Ginobili had that block on James Harden in the playoffs. It was because Harden was tired. He was turning the ball over way too much against the Spurs in the playoffs. And he's going to break down. He can't keep shooting like this and scoring like this for the whole season and then carry it on to what is basically a complete second season. Or when you put the last two playoffs or the last couple of playoffs the Rockets have been in and pair them with one season, it's basically like he's played 4 seasons over the span of the last 3.
Yeah.
So I think you just need to get another player to help him to get the load off of him. It wouldn't be a great defensive backcourt, that I realize, if you trade for Walker.
Yeah, Harden and Walker.
But it'd still be a great scoring backcourt, and I think it would help.
Yeah, but defense isn't really Houston's forte anyway.
Yeah.
It's scoring. It's the 3.
Yeah.
And Beal is a great 3-point shooter, better than CP3 is. And Walker, I think you could argue the same thing, that he's a better shooter than CP3 is, and that's what the Rockets are all about, is shooting. So.
Yeah. All right, so next topic. So I don't mind, sorry if I'm taking over here. But
no problem.
As we just mentioned, Bradley Beal. Great. So the Wizards have been on fire since the announcement that John Wall was out for the rest of the season with a heel surgery. So my question is, do the Wizards continue to see if they can ride the hot streak and maybe make the playoffs without Wall, or do they blow it up? I want to write "ride the wave, baby," but that's not what I don't think that's what they should do. Blow it up, and I drew fire.
I just wrote blow up. Yeah, we have the same answer for this one. Quite frankly, Wall, for me, isn't as great as he used to be. He doesn't, I mean, obviously, with the injuries he's had over the past couple of years. And then, but he's still a great player. I don't consider him top 10 anymore, so obviously, I don't think he's the player he was even 2 seasons ago. But, so it's not like they're losing as much as they would be if he had been out with a season-ending injury a few years ago. But even with a player as good as he is out, I just don't see Bradley Beal carrying a team like the Wizards, because who do the Wizards really have besides him? Dwight is out for the whole season, or Dwight's not out for the whole season, but Dwight's out.
Yeah.
For a while at least.
They have Porter.
Porter
is
good,
become as good,
but he's never been like an all-star.
Yeah.
He's never been on the level of Beal or Wall.
They don't have Rivers anymore. They have
Marcus Morris. I mean, they've got some good players.
Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, they've got some good players on their lineup, but just I don't see Bradley Beal taking that team to the playoffs unless it says like an 8 seed.
And one interesting thing I read on an NBA Instagram account, and I don't know if it's true, but we all know about the Patrick McCall thing where the Cavs signed him, and then like a day after they waived him.
Yeah.
So supposedly the NBA is looking into that, and the Cavs might lose their rights to a first-round pick in the draft. I don't know if that's true, but that's just what I read.
Right.
So that being said, if the Wizards blow it up, they have a good chance of getting Zion Williamson. I mean, if they really blow it up, this win streak might have cost them the probability of getting a number 1 pick.
Right.
But if what I read about the Cavs is true, they fall out. They're easily the worst team in the league. It's not going to be the Suns. I don't think they had first pick last year, and they're trying to diversify who gets those picks early in the draft. So I'd say blow it up. Maybe start the rebuild next year, and you can get a high player. At least if they're not the number 1 seed, they'll probably be top 4. I think they were already projected to be top 4, top 5.
Right.
Even when Wall was healthy. The Wizards are asking for a lot in return for Bill, though. I think they don't want to rebuild. I think they think if they can just trade Bradley Beal for another star, they can be good for a couple of years. But we saw what happened with the Raptors. They got stuck in this mold of we're going to just run with the same guys every year, and hopefully we get better.
Right, and then they never did.
Yeah.
They traded for Kawhi.
And trading for Kawhi, I don't think the Wizards are going to get anything similar to that back for Beal, even though you could argue Beal is better than DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, I wouldn't argue that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's even a conversation.
I definitely don't think they're going to get anything nearly as good in return as what the Raptors got. Therefore, just blow it up because they're not going to get anything good. So
I think the Wizards need a full rebuild at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
They need to. They're not. It's the same problem that, like you said, the Raptors had. They have some talent on their team, but they run with the same guys every year, and the same thing happens. They lose in like the second round of the playoffs. It's a talented team, but the Wizards, they're always going to be like the 4th seed and lose in the second or third round.
And I have a quick question for you before we move on to the next topic. I just want a yes or no answer.
Right.
So the Blazers have kind of fallen into the same pattern as the Raptors and the Wizards have.
Yeah.
Do you think they should blow it up too?
No.
They have probably a more talented backcourt than you.
I think they do. I don't know. I really like that.
They just need to get a third scorer.
Yeah, they need another good player. I don't think there's anything wrong with Dame and McCollum. I think they just need more players because I feel like their whole lineup, you've got Dame and McCollum, then you've got a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah.
Except for Nurkic. I mean, Nurkic is good, but they need another dependable third option, like a guy like how the Wizards have Otto Porter. He's not a great player, but he's a solid third option.
Right. All right. So do you want to do the next topic and then I'll do the final one to bring it home? Clay in a good one.
All right. Do you think that Jimmy Butler, who obviously over the past season or so has stated many times, obviously he didn't like his situation with the Timberwolves, and lately he's been complaining a bit about his situation in Philadelphia, saying, he doesn't get enough touches.
Yeah.
Do you think that him staying in Philadelphia is going to be a long-term thing, or do you think he's going to be gone in the season or two the same way he was with the Timberwolves?
So I wrote down be gone, but only if the package is right. Because I'd say if they have any anticipation of him leaving in free agency, you have to get rid of him in via trade.
Right.
And Jimmy Butler obviously has had his troubles playing in certain systems and getting along with certain coaches. That's why I put only if the package is right, because he's a loose cannon and he's a great talent. He's very talented and a hustler. I think he would work well with a young team, but I don't know.
But that's what they tried with the Timberwolves.
Yeah, but then again, I don't think he'd work well with a rebuilding team because he just wants to win.
He's a win now type of player. That's how they anticipated it with the Timberwolves. You know, the Timberwolves were a young team trying to become something bigger in the future, but that just wasn't happening, so that's why they signed Butler. He's a win now type of guy if you sign him to your team. That's why the 76ers got him, because the 76ers were that same type of team that Minnesota was for the longest time, not succeeding. They're a young, rebuilding type of team, and then they get Jimmy Butler. And that's obviously a win now type of trade. That's not
right.
As Jimmy Butler's not a super young guy. They're not getting him so they can develop him. They're getting him so that they can win now.
Right. What do you if you're the Sixers and you are trading him, what do you expect back in a package for him?
A type of player that I think.
Well, what do the Sixers need?
What do the Sixers need? Okay, well they've got.
Well, if they trade Jimmy Butler, like not in their current roster.
Well, the Sixers have got shooting. They've got Redick. They've got a great center. They trade Butler. I think if they trade Butler, they need another small forward in return. Because who do they have at small forward besides Jimmy Butler?
I think they traded away Robert Covington.
Right. They lost Covington.
So now they have
Saric. They lost.
Yeah. Mike Muscala, Landry Shamet, I guess.
Yeah, but those aren't
rookies,
aren't guys you want starting on your roster.
Yeah.
Or a guy who can play the three. The type of player that I don't think this would be like a trade that would benefit either team, but the type of player, like quality of player, I think that would trade well for Jimmy Butler is like a player on the level of like a DeMar DeRozan. Because I don't know, DeMar DeRozan for me is extremely underrated, and for me Jimmy Butler is kind of overrated.
I think a player like Bradley Beal would fit well with the Sixers because he's a tough defensive player and a good shooter. I think, but he's not a small forward, so they might be going too small. Do you think they should get rid of Ben Simmons if they were to try to make a package?
No. Ben Simmons, they need to develop Ben Simmons. Like, Ben Simmons is extremely helpful to them right now, and especially if he can develop a jump shot, he would be even more helpful for them. I just think he's so young and he's got so much potential that I don't see a reason why. If he's still the same player in, let's say, 2 seasons, if he still can't shoot, if he's still the exact same player he is, then maybe you could start talking about trading him. But right now, he's so young and he's got so much potential. I don't see a reason for them to trade him just yet.
A lot of the second-year players this year have been very disappointing. In my opinion, Tatum has really gone down.
Tatum, I thought he was
going to take the next step.
Remember when in the rookie year, Lonzo Ball didn't have a great rookie season, and everyone thought, he's going to be better coming into this year. He's been the exact same player he was last year.
I think you can say the only player that has got noticeably better is De'Aaron Fox, who could be an all-star this year, I think.
I don't know about that.
He's a great player. Maybe not an all-star, but he's working his way into that category.
I don't know about an all-star, but he's definitely one of the best, if not the best, second year.
Tatum's gone down. Player. Donovan Mitchell's got back-to-back 30-plus point games, but other than
that, he's been relatively the same player. I mean, remember last year when everyone was saying, Ben Simmons is going to be the next LeBron James. He comes in this year and he's the exact same player he was last year. Everyone was saying Donovan Mitchell is a future MVP. He comes in this year. He's the exact same player he was. Kuzma has improved, I think.
Yeah.
Kuzma has been great. Tatum, I thought at some point Tatum would end up, he'd be an all-star level player for many years to come in the future. He comes in this year, he really just hasn't lived up to how I expected him to play.
Yeah. All right.
And aside from Fox has improved greatly, but aside from that, I think a lot of the second-year players just haven't improved at all.
All right. So final topic for our game. So we've had a lot of good games this year. We obviously had KD's 51-point game against the Raptors. We had most recently the Spurs and
Aldridge
and Thunder battled to double OT.
Yeah.
And then the game where Harden hit that clutch game winner against the Warriors. So I'm gonna ask you, what has been your game of the year so far? If you gotta go to one game and say you want, and if you're going to someone that's never watched NBA basketball and you're saying this is what you're gonna show them a game to make them watch it for the rest of their lives, what game are you showing them? You can go first.
My pick is KD's 51-point game against the Raptors, because that game, it went into overtime. It was crazy. KD had those two insane shots at the end. It was just a wild game against, and it's potentially a finals preview.
Yeah.
You know, the Raptors are right up there in the East. The Warriors are right up there in the West. And I think realistically, we're going to get a Warriors and Raptors NBA Finals.
So I went with the most recent one, Oklahoma City versus San Antonio, because that game had everything. It had your old school basketball with Aldridge scoring 56 without attempting a single three.
Wow.
The Spurs started out 14 for 14 from behind the arc, and their starters didn't have anything to do with that. And then it had Westbrook with probably his best game, maybe of his career, with the 24 points, 24 assists, 13 boards or 11 boards. I'm not sure how many it was.
It's a crazy stat line.
And then it had two guys had career highs. I think Terrence Ferguson was one, and I can't remember who it was on the Spurs. Derek White played really well.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a real great game. Steven Adams had that amazing, purposely missed free throw at the end, where the outlet pass to Paul George, who unfortunately missed a three that would have gotten the game a little bit closer and maybe sent it to triple overtime, which would have been great. But this game really did have everything. It had your points, your guy with a lot of points, your guy with a lot of assists. I haven't looked at the exact box score, but Steven Adams probably got all your rebounds too. So you had everybody dominating one part of the stat sheet. And then, like, your game, it went to OT. Which
went to OT. I just think the crazy ending.
Yeah, and another thing that's going for that one is the comeback. The Warriors were down like 19 early on, and they just came back into it. And that makes a lot more games entertaining to have a team ride a hot momentum.
I think another game that isn't game of the year for me, but was a exciting game, is another Golden State game against Houston.
Yeah.
You know, where James Harden hit that game winner over Draymond and KD.
Clay.
Or Draymond and Clay, was it? Yeah, that was a crazy ending in James Harden, one of his best games of the year. And it was, you know, in his 40-point streak. And
you could also argue game of the year candidate Charlotte Hornets versus Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh, yeah.
Because Kemba had 60.
Kemba had 60.
I think that game went to OT too. And Jimmy Butler hit the step back three. And he had that clutch block against Kemba. So there have been a lot of great games this year, a lot of high-scoring games, a lot of high scores. Been a very entertaining year for basketball. So we've hit the 28-minute mark. What do you say?
Do you have any other topics we want to discuss?
I think we got it all gone. One more thing.
Oh, okay.
Just quick response. Timberwolves fired Tom Thibodeau. One, do you think he has another place in the league? And two, do you think this helps the Timberwolves long term?
I think the Timberwolves coach isn't really the issue for them right now. I think who their coach is isn't so much the issue in Minnesota right now. I mean, it's so often people put the blame on the coaches. They're like, this coach got fired, that's why this team's performing poorly. Or, they got a new coach, that's why this team is doing well. And that's true to an extent, that the coaches have an effect, but at the end of the day, it's about what the players do. That the reason that the Timberwolves aren't doing as well as they were even like last year is, you could argue it's because they lost Butler, but they also lost a lot of drama in turn with losing Butler. Tom Thibodeau is a good coach. I mean, he deserves to have a place in the league, but I just don't think that that's the problem with Minnesota right now. You know, you hear so much about coaches like, I hear all the time, and this is going to be a controversial statement, that Steve Kerr is such a great coach. That's why the Warriors are doing so well. At the end of the day, Steve Kerr is a great coach, but are we really gonna act like he's the reason the Warriors are doing well? Like they were under his coaching when they brought in KD, but all the other guys were drafted when like Mark Jackson was their coach.
Yeah.
So at the end, like, are we really gonna act like Steve Kerr is just some brilliant coach? Like, he's a great coach, but come on, at the end of the day, it's about what the players do.
Yeah.
So I mean, I hear all the time about like coaches having such a huge effect on the team, and they do, but it's just at the end of the day, I feel like
and one thing,
the effect of coaches is kind of.
I think this coach is going to help them out a lot. I can't remember his first name. It's something Saunders. I know that much.
Saunders.
But I think he's going to help this team grow a lot better because these young players, which the Timberwolves have a lot of, a lot of young players don't respond well to criticism, and I think that's what Tom Thibodeau did. And we're not going to sit here and pretend that these other teams that got really good all of a sudden didn't like run into the ground during practices, because that's how most teams get good, is just working up their stamina and their ability to play well together. So I don't know if Tom Thibodeau's practices were necessarily any harder than anybody else's, but when you're playing with these young players that aren't experienced and they just want to be pampered and told they're great, and then just go out and however they play, then he's not going to be a good fit. So they got a coach that's been with guys like Towns and Wiggins since their high school days. I think it will really help out the growth of the Timberwolves. I don't know how long this coach will be staying with the Wolves, but so far it looks all right. Of course, Wiggins isn't going to score 40 every night like he did against the Thunder, but I think it'll help him long term. So with that, I think we can call it the end of the video.
Yeah.
Nathan, we miss you. Come back soon.
Yeah, be back next time, man.
Yeah. And he said he has some great games that he wants to introduce. Hopefully next time we don't spend as much time on one game. That was my fault. And we can branch out to some more things. Got a great game planned for next one with Nathan.
Yeah.
Hopefully something exciting. Keep you guys on your toes. Let's say someone will be paying off some sort of debt. We just don't know what that is yet. You'll have to tune in next time and the time after that, and so forth and so on. And thank you. We've had a recent spike of subscribers and followers on the Instagram and YouTube, so huge shout out to all you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess someone might have been pestering you a lot in your DMs. I don't know who that could have been, telling you to subscribe and stuff. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed. Nathan, we miss you, and we'll see you next time.